Welcome students. In the last video we have seen how non-cooperation movement started and how it was called off, how it was interpreted by different sections of society. When the non-cooperation movement was turning violent, Mahatma Gandhi decided in February 1922 to call off or withdraw the non-cooperation movement. At the same time, the movement it was because it was becoming violent, so the satyagrahis they were taking it in some other way. Gandhiji decided that the satyagrahis should be taught the meaning and the way how they should go and follow the movement. At the same time, it was some leaders in Congress like C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru who became reluctant and who said that now these mass agitations will not work for us and we have to participate in the elections for the provincial councils, so that by attending and by becoming a member of the provincial council we can get the policies framed and implemented for the development of our country. So they formed the Swaraj party within Congress. Whereas some young leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, they were in favor of more radical mass agitation, and now we will not fight against the injustice and indiscriminate rule, but we will fight for full independence. At the time when all this was going on, two major factors they turned the total scenario. And after 1920 the nationalist movement was totally changed. What were these two factors? The first one was the worldwide economic depression, which is also known as the Great Depression, in which millions of people they lost their life savings. India too was affected with this great economic depression. The agricultural prices they collapsed, and the agricultural produce, the peasants they were finding it difficult to sell their harvest and to pay the taxes. The exports they also declined because it was the export which was done to the European countries, and this Great Depression affected the European countries very much. Then the second factor, major factor that changed the political scenario was the appointment of Simon Commission. This commission was appointed by the government to bring about and to suggest the constitutional changes, the changes in the constitutional structure of India. It was comprising of 7 members, and it was headed by Sir John Simon, who was actually a liberal lawyer, but the Indians they started protesting against this Simon Commission, as this commission was framed to suggest the changes in the constitutional structure, but not a single member was Indian. But the Indian leaders they started retaliating, they opposed, and in an effort to win over them, the Viceroy Lord Irwin he announced in October 1929 that India will be given a dominion status, and he offered for a round table conference which was totally boycotted by the Congress. And led by all this, Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, the young leaders, they became more assertive. They started discriminating the people, and the British administration they started speaking against the administration, and they became even more and more oppressive and assertive. And it was basically the framework of British dominion that lost its influence. And they said that when we will be given the British dominion, the framework of British dominion, then our influence will be lost. And in December 1929, when Jawaharlal Nehru was the president of the Lahore session of Congress, the demand for Purna Swaraj was adopted, and they take a pledge to struggle for complete independence. Now they didn't wanted the British administration to bring about reforms. They wanted complete Swaraj, that is Apna Raj. Then Mahatma Gandhi saw, after looking into all this, at the same time Mahatma Gandhi saw that the Britishers, they have given and they have proposed a tax on salt, even the basic commodity, one such commodity which the rich and the poor, the Hindus and Muslims, all were using. So he saw it as an opportunity, and on 31st January 1930 he wrote a letter to Viceroy Irwin, Lord Irwin, on 31st January 1930. This date is very important. He wrote a letter to Viceroy Irwin and he put 11 demands. These demands were related to different sections of society, like the businessmen, the peasants, the women, and apart from these demands, a few demands relating to the abolition of the tax imposed on salt was also there. And he wrote this letter as an ultimatum that if the demands will not be fulfilled, then we will go for mass protest, and British government should be ready to face that. But the demands, they were declined, and Mahatma Gandhi, he started the Dandi March or the Salt March. On 12th March 1930, he started traveling from Sabarmati Ashram in Gujarat towards the coastal town of Surat, in which the village called Dandi is there. And after traveling around 241 miles and about 385 or 386 kilometers for 24 days with 78 followers, there were actually 79 participants including Gandhiji. So his 78 followers, they walked for 24 days, covered a distance of around 241 miles or 385 or 386 kilometers, and finally on April 6, 1930, they reached Dandi, a village in the coastal town Surat in the state of Gujarat. There Gandhiji boiled water and made salt, and thus he broke the salt law. And the civil disobedience movement, it started with the breaking of the salt law. The people, they were asked to boycott British goods as they were asked earlier in non-cooperation movement, but this movement, the civil disobedience movement, was different from non-cooperation movement, as in this Gandhiji also told people and urged people to break the civil laws, to disobey the civil laws. That's why this name civil disobedience movement was becoming meaningful. As the movement spread, the boycott of goods, the foreign clothes were boycotted, the liquor shops were picketed, the peasants, they refused to pay the taxes, and the chowkidari taxes also, the revenue was refused to pay. The officials, they resigned, and in many places the people who are actually basically the tribal people or the people who are living by the forest side, they broke the forest laws and they entered into the reserved forest, which were banned for their entry. Alarmed by this situation, the Britishers, the colonial government, they began arresting the Congress leaders, and at many places violent clashes were seen, like in Peshawar, when Abdul Ghaffar Khan, a follower of Mahatma Gandhi, he was arrested by police in April 1930. The crowds, they demonstrated in the streets of Peshawar and they faced armored cars and police firing. Armored cars, that is the vehicles of the army in which armed personals were there, and they opened fire. Many people were killed, and a month later, when Mahatma Gandhi was also arrested, industrial workers in Sholapur, they attacked the police posts, municipal buildings and railway stations, because all these structures, they are symbolic representation of the British rule. So they attacked and they demolished all these. So the government became more repressive and they started using brutal repression. Around 1 lakh people were arrested and the satyagrahis, they were brutally beaten again by the police. So alarming by this situation, Mahatma Gandhi, he called off the he decided to call off the movement again and he called off this movement. And on 5th March 1931 he he gave his permission and consent to participate in the second round table conference, because the first one was boycotted by Congress when Viceroy Lord Irwin, he suggested a dominion status and asked for the congressmen to participate in the first roundtable conference. That time Congress boycotted, but this time Gandhiji, he gave his permission and he went to London, where he attended the second roundtable conference, where he clashed with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and who was demanding for a separate electorate for the Dalits. So he clashed, and the Britishers, they saw it as an opportunity and they said they permitted the separate electorate for the Dalits as demanded by B.R. Ambedkar, and as a result the second round table conference, the negotiations, they were not fulfilled and Gandhiji returned again. After returning, he again decided to relaunch this civil disobedience movement in 1934, and it was relaunched. Although Gandhiji was not willing to relaunch it, but with an assertive mind and with a great apprehension, he relaunched it. But this movement, by the end of 1934, this movement lost its pace and it was not as much successful as Gandhiji was thinking. Now we will see how the participants, they saw this movement. First we will talk about the rich peasants. The rich peasants, especially the patidars of Gujarat and the Jats of Uttar Pradesh, they were active in the movement. Why? Because they were actually the producers of the commercial crop, and with the Great Depression, when the Great Depression it took place, the prices, they started falling and they were not able to generate cash incomes as they were generating earlier, and it became impossible for them to pay the revenue to the government as per the government's demand. So they pleaded the government to reduce the revenue, but the government refused, and this led to widespread resentment. The rich peasants, they became the supporters of civil disobedience movement with an hope that this movement will bring a decline in the taxes for them, and they can restore their status and they can restore their economic status in the society. So they started participating very actively, even they financed the movement. But when it was called off in 1931 by Gandhiji, without the revenue rates being revised, they felt hopeless, and when this movement was relaunched, they refused to participate. In fact, many of them refused to participate. Only a few members, they participated, and that's why this lost its pace as earlier it was when it was started at first. So it lost its pace among the rich peasants. Now the poor peasants, they were not interested in the lowering of the revenue demand, and most of the peasants, they were small tenants who were cultivating the small lands. So what happened, with the continuation of depression, their incomes also got down, and the small tenants, basically the poor peasants, they found it difficult to pay their rent. They wanted that there should be relaxation, and the rent which they were paying to the landlord, it should be remitted. So they joined very radical movements, but when the Congress party came to know, the Congress party, it was not willing to support this campaign. Why? Because the Congress party was getting the grants and donations from these rich peasants, and if they include these poor peasants who were demanding remittance of rent, then the rich peasants, they will become angry, and the Congress party will not get the grants or donations. So that's why the Congress was unwilling to include these poor peasants. And again, because of the non-participation and non-includingness of the poor peasants in the movement lost its pace among the poor peasants. Then we have the businessmen. They made huge profits during the First World War as trade policies, but they were keen to expand their businesses, and the colonial policies were restricting their business activities. So they thought they wanted their protection against imports of foreign goods, and rupee sterling actually is the sterling pound, the British currency at that time. So they wanted a rupee sterling exchange rate that would discourage imports. So they wanted to abolish this. And the Indian Industrial Commercial Congress was formed in 1920, and FICCI, we have FICCI auditorium still present. This stands for Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries. F for Federation, I for Indian, C for Chamber, again C for Commerce, and I for Industries. So this FICCI was formed in 1927, and some important and well-known industries like Purushottam Das, Thakur Das, and Mr. G.D. Birla, they attacked the colonial controlled, and they supported the civil disobedience movement when it was launched for the first time. But they came to see the Swaraj as a time when the colonial restrictions will not be there, and they can work freely, and the industry would flourish without any restrictions, and they can make huge profits. But when the second round table conference, it was not successful, they became apprehensive, and they lost their interest in the movement, and they didn't supported it as they were supporting it earlier. Then the industrial working class, they did not participated in the civil disobedience movement. Why? Because the business classes or the industrialists, they were closer to the Congress. So these poor peasants or the industrial working class, they thought that the industrialists, they are funding the Congress, they are funding this movement. So why the Congress leader will include us, as we will demand demand something which will not favored by the industrialists. So these industrial peasants, they didn't participated in the civil disobedience movement except for the people in Nagpur region. Again, it was an important feature, the large scale participation of movement. The women, they participated in the protest marches, they manufactured salt, and they picketed the foreign clothes and the liquor shops. They went to urban areas, and these women, they were not common women, they were women belonging from high caste families. In rural areas, they came from rich peasant families, and on Gandhiji's call, they began to see service to a nation as a sacred duty, and this increased their role in public. But the Congress, it didn't allow any woman to hold any position of authority within the organization. It was only keen on their symbolic presence. So the women, they participated in actively in the movement, although they were not given any post or any such office in the Congress. Now we will see the limitations of the civil disobedience movement. The very first limitation of this movement was the non-active participation of the Dalits. See, Dalits, they were the oppressed class, and the Congress, it ignored Dalits. Why? Because in the Congress, the conservative high caste Hindus, that is the Satnamis, were there. Satnami leaders were there. But Mahatma Gandhi, he declared that Swaraj will not come for another century if the untouchability was not eliminated, and these people, these untouchables, or the so called Dalits or Harijans as named by Gandhiji, they will not be included in the mainstream struggle. Gandhiji, he himself dignified the work of the sweepers and he cleaned the toilets. He persuaded the upper caste to change their outlook, to change their heart and give up the sin of untouchability. But the Dalit leaders, some of the Dalit leaders, they were looking for a different political solution of the problem. They started organizing themselves and they started demanding reserved seats in educational institutions and a separate electorate. See, what is separate electorate? In this seats, they are not only reserved, but the votes, they will be counted different. So they started asking for separate electorates. But to resolve the problem of the political empowerment, they believed that their social disabilities will be resolved when they will be politically powerful. So this Dalit participation on such grounds, it was limited, particularly in Maharashtra and Nagpur region, where organizations of the Dalits, they were quite strong. The Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the leaders of the depressed classes, he organized the Depressed Class Association in 1930, and he was having clashes with Gandhiji at the second round table conference that led to the failure of the second round table conference. The government conceded Ambedkar's demand for separate electorate. Then Gandhiji, he began a fast unto death, that is Amaran Anshan, and Gandhiji stated that separate electorate for Dalit will slow down the process of their integration or mixing up in the society. Ambedkar accepted Gandhiji's position, and it was in the Pune Pact of September 1932 the depressed classes, which came to be known as scheduled castes, were reserved, they were given reserved seats in the provincial and central legislative councils. Like, these are two actually different forms of government. Central, that is like we have MPs, members of parliament, and the states, provinces, that is we have MLAs, the state legislature. So the separate instead of separate seats, they were given reserved seats in the provincial as well as the central legislative councils. Also, when it comes to Muslims, because of the decline and failure of the non-cooperation Khilafat movement, the Muslims, they felt alienated from the Congress, and from the 1920s the Congress, it started showing its association with the Hindu leaders and like Hindu nationalist groups, Hindu Mahasabha. So the relations between Hindus and Muslims, they were worsening, and the communities, they organized their religious processions, and militant fervors were there that provoked Hindu Muslim communal clashes and riots in various cities. The Congress and the Muslim League, they made efforts to negotiate, and in 1927 it appeared that such a unity can be done. But Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the prominent leader of Muslim League, he was willing to give up the demand for separate electorate if the Muslims, they were given the surety that they are going to have reserved seats in the Central Assembly, and they wanted their representation in proportion to the population in Muslim dominated provinces like Bengal and Punjab. But all this hope to resolve the issue, it was in vain when Mr. M.R. Jaikar of the Hindu Mahasabha, he strongly opposed the efforts, and Jinnah, he went infuriated, he walked out, and then he said, no, we will not participate in the movement. And that's how this civil disobedience movement, which started as a strong movement that can make the Britishers to be driven out of the country, it lost its face, and when it was relaunched in the second time, there was a atmosphere of suspicion and distrust between the communities within the Hindus and between Hindus and Muslims. That's why this movement, it lost its pace and it became a minor success for Gandhiji as well as for Congress.